Hey guys, welcome back. You can see I am halfway into this painting already, but I figured I would stop here and film a bit of an intro. I have already done all of the pencil sketching and the pen lining, as you can tell. I'm going to go ahead and tape this guy up so I have a nice border, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and play the sped up version of me inking this whole thing. So let's cut to that now. Little backstory to what this guy is. As you can see, we have this pup here. This is somebody's dog who I met at Art Walk at my most recent one. They had met me there, talked to me for a little while, and had a desire to get some work done, but they didn't have any good photos at the time, and they asked if they could reach out to me later and get a painting done for them, for their daughter. And I said, yeah, not a problem. Here's my contact information. And they did reach out and email me, and this is what we've got. So this was kind of a fun little process today because I was not just following one sample photograph. Typically, you would prefer to do it that way, have just one example of a photo that the client likes and they want to have painted, but sometimes people have extra requests, and that is what we are doing today. So you can see me inking things in. I don't know how fast I did this portion, but I was actually using a couple different reference photos. So the first reference photo that I used was of this dog in this specific pose. I will put that up here if I remember. Hopefully I do. And you can see that there are a few things that are different between this picture and the one that I have set up and the one that I'm drawing. So they had requested when I talked to my client that they really like it when the dog's tongue is out. That's one of the big things that this dog does a lot, and asked if there was any way I could get it so that the dog's tongue was out in this picture. And I said, yeah, that's easy. So I'll do the pose from the one with the oranges on the bandana, and I will have the tongue sticking out. Well, they also asked if I could make the bandana the one from the tongue picture, because that's the company that their daughter owns. Yeah, easy, not a problem. So we have kind of combined those two paintings together, or those two pictures together, to make one painting, and that's what we're going to do now. I should hopefully be finishing up at this point with the pen lining process, and we're going to get right into the painting. So I've got some water here. You can see a little cup of water off to the side, my paper towels, and the palette that I've been using lately, and I have taped down this drawing. I want to make sure that everything is in screen for you guys, so it's very clear and obvious what I'm doing at each step. And hopefully that'll make it a little more easy for you to follow along if you want to do something like this at home. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put down a lot of base tones. So I have my bigger brush. This is Royal and Langnickel. This is the Z or Z 83PO. This is 19 millimeter, 3/4 inch brush. What does any of that mean? No idea. I like it, and that's what I'm using. I am very much a person who does not believe that you need specific materials in order to make good art. Check out this video up here where I made a painting with half of it using my high quality artist materials and the other half using Crayola materials. You don't have to have good products in order to make a good painting. You just have to know what you're doing. So let's fill in some of these colors. I always like to start with some of my lighter colors first, just because I won't be able to put them on top of the dark colors due to the nature of watercolor being translucent, which is semi-transparent or partially see-through. So some of my lighter colors in this dog are a bit of a tan. So let's mix a tan. I have some left over here, but that's not going to be enough. So I'll show you how I made it. I have this nice brown here that I really like. My one issue with it is it's very red. And so the thing that I do to tan it up a little better is I add some of this very vibrant yellow, and that knocks a little bit of the red off and gives it some more orange, which helps to push it to more of a sienna type of color. Now, I'm not going to paint this everywhere, but I'm going to go ahead and look at my reference photo off to the side and kind of get a gauge for where I think it needs to be. So this dog has brown eyes, so we'll put some of that in here. We've got brown up here. There's a lot of brown in the lower part of the face. And obviously it's not entirely brown, but if I put this down first, I can cover over it later. And so I'm going to put a lot of brown in a lot of places that may not necessarily be this color, but I can cover them up later. We got some down here and some in this little bit of fold. The bandana is orange, so if it bleeds over a little bit, that's not the end of the world. I'm going to paint some even brighter orange over the top of the bandana. We've got some brown up top here, but it's very dark and covered up in the actual picture with more brown gray fur. That's totally fine. Once again, I'm putting a base coat down. And we're going to fill in some brown in these ears as well. And you'll notice that I do have some of the dogs sticking off the side. I'm going to actually go ahead and do one of these numbers for now. And I can put this tape back down when I'm done with it. So that I have a nice outline for the background, but the dog sticks out in front of my borders, which I think always looks really cool. So there, that's a lot of brown, but I think it's good. We're going to now come in here and fill in some of our darker colors as well. I have a nice dark section down here. I'm going to mix in some of this brown from earlier with some of my black and gray to kind of kill some of the vibrance and bring down the tones and values a little bit. I'm also going to add some of this dark blue to take away a little bit of the warmth. This is going to give me a nice gray that isn't straight gray. It's got some color in it. It's a little more interesting. Okay, and now I'm going to look here and I'm going to start in the very darkest areas. So we've got a lot of darkness here. Just like that. We have some here. It's very dark under these ears, and the ears themselves are pretty dark as well. So I don't mind covering the whole ear. We just want that warmth to show through. As you can see, it is doing a good job of doing that right now. So that's a good sign for us. Once again, we've got light spots here. So we're going to avoid those. We're going to come down like that. We can put in this color on the nose for now. We've got a lot of it down the side of the face here and under the eyes. Looks nice. And we've got some on the back of the neck here. And we'll put some in the body as well. Nice, that's not too bad. One of the things I'm going to do here is kind of dry out my brush a lot. So there's not a lot of water, but there is still some pigment on it. And I can come through above the nose here with very quick strokes. And this is going to give me just a little more texture here in the nose, which is good. Okay, so I want even darker areas. So I'm going to go more of my black, more of my gray, and I'm actually going to add in some purple as well, along with that warm red brown that we've been using. And this is going to give me an even darker, even cooler tone that we can use for some of our darker shadow areas. For example, the pupils. In here, we've got a lot of depth, especially in these creases. So we can fill in some of those. You can see I'm being a little more delicate with where I pick and choose to add these colors. I don't want this to cover everything. some more depth around the eyes. It's nice and dark around here. And I'm going to come in with some white pens later to define some more of this as well. And so I am not concerned if I go a little overboard, because I can always bring some of it back with white. But obviously I would prefer to not have to bring anything back from Gone Forever. So I'm just going to be careful here. And I'm using the flat side of my brush here, and you can see it's giving me some nice texture that I can use to indicate fur and things like that. Just some nice texture. Okay, not too bad. I'm gonna add some darkness down here. I'm gonna go in here with a little bit of this nice yellow brown color and just put that on the tooth. Dog's teeth are off-white, you know, to some extent. And so I just want to get that in now so I don't have to think about it later. I find myself forgetting that all the time. And so for the tongue, let's get this colored in. The tongue is, I have a nice color here already, but I'm going to mix some more of it for myself. I have this nice red. Which one is it? I think it's this guy maybe. Or this guy. Yeah, I've got this nice burgundy color that is pretty close to what I want already. What I end up doing is I just add a little more blue to it. And a few touches of purple. I don't want the tongue to be like bright pink. So now it's too warm. Add a little more blue. It's very vibrant, so maybe I'll dull it down with a little black, a little gray. And I can put this in here. You gotta remember, the paper underneath is white, so it's going to, the color's gonna look a lot lighter than it seems while we're mixing it, because the paper is white and we're not covering opaquely or solidly. So there's that. Let's put in our orange, and then we will have all of our base colors down. So what I'm going to do for this orange is I have an orange here that I need to clean. I should be able to mix into a nice vibrant orange that is different enough from the underpaint. Yeah, see how bright that is? That's good. We want a nice vibrant color. Whoops. That's not supposed to be orange. So let's pick a bunch of that up. That is actually dog. So we can put some of my brown in here. Cover up a little bit of that area. There we go. No harm, no foul, right? Okay, so I'm gonna pull this tape even further off. So what I should have done is just painted the background and then and then removed the tape and then painted the dog, but I didn't, so I'm not going to start now. I just want him to come off the edge nicely. Now we can go back to our orange. We may want to come back and add a few more layers to that just to get the colors looking nice and dark. That's fine. We'll leave that be for now. So there's our main base coat. So let's go ahead and reapply this tape so that we can paint the background and then take this tape off so we can finish up the details on our dog. Okay, reapplying. And background wise, there's a couple options I can choose. And this is kind of really just up to me and the client. We haven't talked about what color the background should be, but I think since we have the main color in our painting is, browns and grays, and the primary color that you want to focus in on, the most vibrant color in the subject matter is orange, we will do the opposite of orange, which is, if you look at your color wheel, blue. And so that's what we're going to do for the background. I'm going to probably use this purpley blue stuff up here, and maybe make some more of my own to apply a nice, interesting background. That feels pretty good to me. You can see I went pretty dark in some areas, which is totally fine. That's kind of what I'm going for. I want to now, just for fun, let's pick up some really dark blue purple. And I'm going to do little tappers in the background. If they get on the face, that's okay. Because remember, I'm not done with the face, so I can kind of blend those in a little bit. All right, so that'll be our background. I can go ahead now and pull off this tape. Nice and slowly. I don't want to damage anything too bad. You can see we pulled up a little bit there, which is fine. This probably was just a little too wet when I put the tape down the first time, which is why you want to avoid doing that if possible. But that's okay. I can paint it again. Let's just remove the rest of this tape. All right. Tape is removed. So let's fill in these little areas that pulled up. Let's continue on with some of the detailing process now. I'm moving down in size to a smaller pen. This is number 10 size, whatever that means. It's just whatever size feels right. I try to use the biggest brush that I'm comfortable with for the level of detail that I'm currently working with. Okay, we had a nice dark color, and this, you'll see this is a lot darker than what we've got so far. And that's kind of intentional here. I want to give myself some nice darks to play off of. And at this point, I'm being a little bit more careful and paying attention to where I'm putting these colors. Making sure that they are in the dark, shadowy areas. And they're in places where I am happy with. Yeah. And I'm also going to be paying attention now to the direction of the fur, especially when I'm doing this dry brushing motion. I don't need it to be perfect, but I want whatever strokes you can see through to indicate the direction of the fur. Okay, we've got really dark ears at the tips especially. So we can darken those up. Okay. Looks good. So now I'm going to come through to the nose or snout area. and apply some nice dark strokes in here. In my reference photo, there is a lot of black fur in this area, especially around the nose, including the nose itself. I'm going to make this nose purple in a minute too, just for the sake of more interest. You'll see what I mean when I get to it. But it I think would be better if it was more purple, more reflective of the surroundings. And so that's what I'm going to do in a second here. Let's add some more of this to the back. There's not a lot of this back here, but I want to darken it up a little just so it doesn't stand out so much. We kind of want this to fade away. And that's exactly what I think it's going to be doing here. Okay, I mentioned something about purple, so I'm going to wet this all up. Add a little purple, a little blue. You can see what I got here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on the nose, just to differentiate it a little bit from the fur around it. Makes it seem a little more reflective. I'll do the same thing with the eyes. Okay. We're looking pretty good so far. I think we could get away with some gray up here. And I want to put some more brown in as well. A little bit of a duller brown, but still brown. Just in some of these areas like this. And like here. And I want some very vibrant brown in the eyes here. So you'll see, I'm going to put this in and then clean my brush and pull that color toward the center. So this seems a little flat to me out here, so I'm going to add some more shading over there. And now I want to kind of give myself some more primary shadows. And what I mean by that is everything looks a little flat. I want to give this some more shape. And the way to give it more shape is to think about where the light source is coming from and add a bluish purple color on everywhere that's not that light source. So I'm going to pick up my big brush again, and I've got this purple color from earlier that I did for the nose. I'm going to add more water to it than I did the first time for the nose because I don't want this to be too strong. And we're going to say the light source is coming from up here. So this would be in shadow. You can see it's just a subtle change here. And that doesn't change a whole hell of a lot, but it does make enough of a difference that I think it's going to be noticeable to the final product. So that's going to help kind of pull everything together a little better for us. Now we can go in and do a little bit more fine detailing. So I left this white. What color is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be white. But there are some blue highlights and lines in here that I can add. And then some more shadow to the tongue here. It's looking a little flat to me. And with that, we're also going to put some of the bandana and shadow underneath it as well. These are little subtle changes that they make a big difference for the realistic parts of the painting. We're looking kind of dark. I want it to be a little darker than what I would like the final piece to be because we are going to add in some bright highlights in a minute here. Cool. Looks pretty good. I would say I'm at a point where I can start adding the highlights, and then we can do refining later. So I'm going to add my highlights with this guy here, this Posca pen. And I'm going to pull up my reference. So let's make some decisions here. I always like to start with the highlights on the eyes, because that kind of really brings the whole thing together immediately and lets me kind of fiddle around with the other areas and make everything look cohesive. So my light source is coming from here. So I want my reflections to indicate that. All right. This one would be a little smaller than this one. All right, there's a good start. You see right away that already does some work to it. I'm also going to be putting some highlights in the nose, but what I'm going to do is tap them away, which what that does is it softens them up a little bit. So they're not too drastic, but they do appear, and I can come back in with my black pen later and make those a little more refined. We can add some more depth over here. I don't think that this section should be this light, especially because it's behind the ear. Okay. And I can add some highlights on the tongue, right? Tongues are wet, so we want that. And I'm going to add a ring light or a rim light around the outside. And that's part of the reason why I made the background as dark as I did, because that's going to help the rim light stand out even better. And you can see that I'm not putting it around every single piece. I am letting my lines be a little scratchy. Dogs have fur, right? So it's not going to be a perfectly smooth line everywhere. And if it skips in a couple areas or is a little more fuzzy in some sections, that's a-okay with me. Okay, there's our rim light. Now I am going to come in and put some more definition and shadow in the bandana. So I'm going to mix a nice warm brown, put a little purple in that, and that's going to make it seem like a nice vibrant shadow that I can use to kind of show that this is fabric. And I can use this color to continue these shadows into the logo itself. Okay. Let's see here. I'm just going to look back and forth at this point, and see what details I think will add to the painting. I think that if we put some little whiskers in here, that's a little subtle change, but it will make a big difference. Let's mark off this guy. Like I said, I was going to do a little better. Nice. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of marking in here, and I'm going to do some fur indications down here, especially around the eyes, to kind of tell us what direction the fur is supposed to be going in. What that does for us is it helps to inform the eye of what it's looking at. Add some shadows, some really nice hatched shadows down here, just because I want that to be covered up a little bit more. We're going to do the same thing here. Some nice hatch marks for shadows. It's these little details at this point that really make the difference in the final painting. Like, remember we mentioned that the tips of the ears are pretty dark, so I can add some hatch marks in there to darken them up even more. I see a shadow here. I can put a little mark in there. I see a shadow here. I can put a little mark in there. Just, I'm going to be finding areas that make sense to be putting little marks in, and I'm going to be doing that. So there's a line here in the reference photo that I think would make for a good line on the painting. Same thing with this side. There's a line here that's kind of indicating the brow line. All right, so let's add some more highlights. So there are some highlights in the corners of the eyes here that are not super bright, so I'm going to soften them up a little. And we can even do kind of the tear line underneath. I'm going to give myself some highlights here. And same thing over here, maybe. We'll do a little bit of highlighting over here. Pull it away. Let's hatch up this a little better. Nice. And we're going to put some highlights on some of these folds, as well as in here. Nice. Apply some highlights in here. I think that would look good. And I want to make sure that it's nice and dark around the outside of the bandana. We can tell that that's not part of the dog. Okay, so I'm squinting my eyes, and when I squint my eyes, this all blends together a little too much. I want it to seem like this is further back. So in this area here, I'm going to darken up with the paint. That's not necessarily how it looks in the actual painting or the actual picture, but that's totally fine with me. I don't care if this looks exactly like the picture, neither does the client. That's not the point, right? We want a good painting, not a photorealistic painting, a good painting. And sometimes you have to take creative liberties in order to make sure that a painting looks good. If they wanted a realistic, perfect copy replica, they, first of all, would not have asked me to make changes to the original photos. And second of all, they could have just ordered a copy and got prints made. The client is asking for my services as a professional artist to make something that they will love. And I am using my artistic discretion to make sure that that thing looks good. That's a little nicer. And I can even do a little bit of this to show where our mouth is. Nice. So at this point, I would say that we are pretty good. I'd say that this is pretty much a finished painting. And so now is time to go ahead and sign it. First thing I want to do is mark these off a little better. Okay. So Normally I sign in one of the bottom corners. Obviously I can't sign down here because there's a lot of dog going on. So I will sign right here. So let's zoom in. Okay. John Johnson II, 2026. We'll zoom back out. Let you guys check out the final piece. Nice. I'm pretty happy with that. I would say that this is a pretty good painting. And I am happy with the final result here. If you are happy with the final result here, do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell, share with your friends, leave a comment, all the standard YouTube things. It makes a huge difference for the channel, especially one this small. Every comment means a lot to me. I read them all, and whenever you like and subscribe and leave a comment, it tells YouTube that this is something that is worth sharing with other people. And I like to think that it is. So if you agree with me, do me a favor, hit the like, all that fun YouTube stuff, and I will upload another just like this very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. YouTube thinks that you will really like this one here, this video. There's a circle here. You can click to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.